You're listening to Mentoring Developers. So when you want to learn something, you're thinking, hey, I want to do AngularJS. Do you look into it? Do you do Google searches on it? Do you read books? How do you learn something? How do you keep your skills up to date?
So right now I'm actually working through, so I've gone through like a couple different ways. Like, so we had the boot camp and you had lots of examples that you went through. I even spent like a ridiculous amount of time trying to figure out what IDE I wanted to use. And so some of that stuff is just going, so you're like, you start a project in NetBeans and then you get so frustrated with NetBeans, you're like, I'll go try Eclipse. And so you go try Eclipse and you're like, this, oh my God. So you just spend time, even just as simple as doing, trying to learn the IDE. Yeah. And so now I'm finally, I put a stake in the ground. I'm like, you know what? IntelliJ is my IDE. That's where I'm going. And so then you restart a project. So I restarted projects that I did at this boot camp, just for practice, reiteration. Some books that I've been reading, like Clean Code's one, just reading through some recommended books. And then I've enjoyed, there's the ultimate website development course. So working my way through that where you just get a flavor for building different applications. But I think I am so much like, I want to hit a button and I want things to run and work. And I just really need that. I really need to feel very tangible for me. So I'm looking for those types of opportunities to practice, to enjoy it, to kind of get that, like, okay, this is fun. Like, after my son goes to bed at night, like, I want to play around with this versus, geez, I have this, issue I have to work out. Cause I think that makes the difference. If it's kind of getting into that flow state where I think it's like something like the percentage is like, you want to be 4% harder than, or you want it 4% more challenging than where you are, versus like, if you feel like it's like 20% harder, you don't get into flow state. You aren't appropriately challenging yourself. You're just overwhelming yourself. And then it's just not your best state to learn. So I try to find like, where am I? What's a good solution for me to get that right level of challenge?
So the difference is learn by doing versus learn by reading, right? You could say there are websites like Code Academy and some other places where you can get little bitty projects that you can do maybe in 2-3 hours and say, well, let's get this done, see how it works. And there is that kind of short-term satisfaction of finishing something versus another approach is that I want to learn, for example, I want to learn how to model this particular thing in Java. So Java is an object-oriented programming language. How do I do relationships? And how do I persist data in the database? Like, those are things that you might want to learn, because then you can say, well, I'll use it maybe some other time, but I need to learn it beforehand. Or another approach is, let me see if I can build a calculator that can do some sine, cosines, and then I can do some perhaps arithmetic and algebra, and I can just build this calculator. That's a smaller goal that you can potentially achieve and see, look at it, and then show people. Yeah. Where do you fall on this?
So I try to keep it simple, but also incorporating the database. So for instance, like one of the projects that we went through is like creating like an address book. So you add a contact, you can delete a contact, you can add a contact in it, and you have a database that it links up to. And so that's definitely, so probably like that level where it's you're working with the technologies, but you're familiar with it, and it's practicing the full stack. Because I think that's where I get overwhelmed, because I'm like, I don't know what my tool belt is necessarily right now. But let me build something that's simple that I get practice with. I get practice with an MVC framework. So I'm practicing with Spring. I'm practicing with Bootstrap, and practicing with the database, but at a level where I feel like it's not a 6-month project, where it's something that's tangible, I can see, but I feel like I'm getting practice across these different channels.
Thank you so much for listening.
For show notes and transcripts, visit us at mentoringdevelopers.com.